All right.
So, hey everyone, happy Friday. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm sorry about that if I sound a little nasally. We were kind of last minute scheduling this thing, and we're going to have cheap late. First, I was going to have our lovely friend Emergent Reasons, John, on, but then I was like, oh, maybe Cheap Lightning, because he was taking a nap, and then Cheap Lightning's like, all right, we'll do that. Then, oh no, we'll do both, and then Cheap Lightning bounced. So apologies for the confusion, but yeah, good to have
You
John.
just got me.
Yeah. For those who don't, might not have remembered, John was on a long time ago. Not a long time, within the last year, right? I think talking about
In crypto,
BCH
that's
Bull.
like an age ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. And talked about BCH Bull and all this kind of stuff in like a regular podcast, but the first live show. So everyone say hi and be nice to him. Let me just see
Hello,
if we
hello.
wait for another couple of people to trickle on in, and then we'll officially roll the intro and get going. Uh, but in the meantime, unless it's a huge, long point, you're talking about ATMs in Japan.
Yeah,
If they're just, are you talking about ATMs or specifically just crypto ATMs?
crypto ATMs. Yeah, crypto ATMs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's just Japan in general. The banking regulations are so heavy. I'm not sure exactly what it is about them, but banking regulations are so heavy that even big banks don't want to mix here. They're just like, yeah, we're out. All the big American banks just left. Um, like the really big ones, they left. Running an ATM here is a huge hassle and just doesn't happen. It's just the crypto ATMs. Just nobody, whatever it is that is needed for it, it's just apparently too high. Nobody does it. So yeah, as far as I know, I don't think anybody's running crypto ATMs in Japan.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting to think about because from what I've been told, I haven't yet been to Japan. I will be at some point, but I'm told it's a cash-heavy society, and
Oh
so
yeah,
it would make sense. Unlike some place like maybe Scandinavia, it makes sense that Japan would be a place where you'd have more crypto ATMs because that's the money people use, and then digital money, makes sense. But I guess not, huh?
well, I mean, if you go to any store here, the smallest mom and pop store, they'll have about 50 methods of payment available,
Uh huh.
right? And they're all virtual Japanese yen, right? But there's so many payment networks here. It's ridiculous. So yeah, but crypto is just apparently just a line too far. They just don't go for it. Now there
Yeah.
are places, of course, like where adoption happens, where there's a core of people available who are regularly going to businesses. So that happens in Tokyo.
Yeah, and I definitely like to visit that segment. Ever since I started the whole living on crypto thing, one of the most interesting things is always trying to the puzzle is figuring out how to do that outside of my comfort zone of my little, what is it, 50-mile radius or whatever. And yeah, it's I found some interesting, variabilities of success. It was tricky in the Netherlands. Spain has a lot of crypto ATMs that have in both Madrid and Barcelona that would just let you with no KYC sell, even buy and sell. So I'd sell crypto for some
Wow.
euros and um,
That can't be
fantastically.
the
And
case anymore. Do you think that's still the case? I
that
doubt
was
it.
the case as of August of this last year.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's a company which, again, I'm not sponsored by this company at all, but I like them. It's called Shitcoins Club, and it's an ATM provider, and they're famous for their ATMs look like a big Bitcoin symbol, where
Yeah.
like it's like a big red Bitcoin symbol with like the ATM part is like in the stand, and you might have seen some pictures of them around.
I know the company for some other reason, but I can't remember why. I remember
Yeah,
them.
I really
Yeah.
like them because first of all, they let you sell, and I don't want to buy crypto with cash because why would I? I don't have cash. So there's that, and I also like that they have like no. I don't know if it's entirely no KYC or if it's no KYC with certain limits, but I know that they also have a very pro freedom, anti regulation kind of an ethos where
Mm.
they won't censor their product for in order to become available in more places. And like I went to one of their ATMs in, I believe, Munich. And then before Germany got rid of all that, and they left the country, so they're not in Germany anymore.
Really?
And they intentionally, if their like regulations chase them out of a country, they intentionally set up ATMs right on the border in a different country, so people can go right. Like they say this out loud that they're like, screw regulations. So
I'm right over here. Yeah.
I really like them. But yeah, it would, if there's there's like a collection of places I could spend in Tokyo, then that just makes it easier just to hop on over and try it out.
Yeah, there are. It's much easier. Any kind of local adoption thing is very, very hard because retail adoption
Yeah.
is extremely difficult. But retail adoption in Tokyo and anywhere works with very concentrated communities who know what they're doing, they have a purpose, they're intentionally going out and spending crypto. And so there is a community in Tokyo that does that. And as far as I know, it's mostly the Bitcoin Cash community. There used to be a
Hmm.
huge Bitcoin meetup there back in the day, before the BCH BTC split. And then after the split, from what I've heard, the BTC stuff has mostly kind of diluted out into just basically speculation, discussion, general crypto
Hmm.
speculation, which is fine, but it's not concentrated, and then they're not really focused on using it. And then the BCH ecosystem has just continued down that same road of, hey, let's get as many businesses and let's go to them and let's use our money there and that kind of thing. So yeah, there is a community there that can do that. I know of at least one there that I could hook you up with.
Well, fantastic. All right, let me just roll the intro, and then we'll officially get started on this thing. All
All
right,
right.
go. So, hey everyone, happy Friday officially. Welcome to the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 143. 143 weekly shows, quite a lot of these. I'm joined by the one and only, as far as I know, Emergent Reasons, or John. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well, thank you. Nice to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on. As we mentioned in the pre-show, I did interview John on the on BCH Bull about a year ago, within the last year, I guess. And first time for the live show, but that's always fun, especially because, when looking through the news headlines and stuff, I was looking at there's a what as far as what's new in crypto, there's nothing too big. Everything has kind of been around when ETF in like the Bitcoin maxi world, and I've taken a great interest in looking at that on the what's not being talked about sides of all that. But yeah, before we get into all that, this is the first live show I actually have a sponsor. Yes, CoinATMRadar has been nice enough to do that. Let me throw their stuff up on the screen real quick and just talk about them. Yeah, so CoinATMRadar, if you guys haven't used it, it's something that I've used in the past a lot of times. Again, we were just talking about traveling, and when I've been traveling internationally, I just only have crypto, and it's great to always find an ATM to sell some crypto for local cash, so I could just kind of have that backup in case I can't find any place to take crypto. But yeah, so obviously it's more safe and reliable than meeting a random person in a random place, which is getting more and more sketchy these days. And of course, when you do buy from an ATM, you don't have the risk of an exchange freezing your funds in the same way. So definitely, I'm always a fan of non-custodial options. And so, yeah, find places you can buy or sell your crypto for cash. Sort by coin, address, if the ATM supports selling as well as buying. Search by geo area, etc. And you can also compare fees from different ATMs. So, CoinATMRadar.com, that's CoinATMRadar.com. All right, so let's hit this first crazy news thing. VanEck.
Which one? Okay, this one.
Yes. VanEck posted, he said, "We're not Bitcoin tourists at VanEck. We're in it for the long haul. That's why we made an initial $10,000 donation and signed a pledge to donate 5% of our Bitcoin ETF profits, if approved," which is kind of funny. They're putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but whatever, to support Bitcoin Core devs Bitcoin brink for at least 10 years. Your tireless dedication to decentralization innovation is the cornerstone of the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we're here to support it. More details to come. So, before we jump into my take on that, I'd like to get your hot take on this. What's your initial reaction when you hear that VanEck is
I mean,
sponsoring core development?
I look at this stuff from the outside, right? It's mostly a circus for me, is how I look at it. It's mostly entertainment. So, I mean, there's nothing that can stop an ETF or something like that. Some kind of traditional finance getting involved in and trying to do something with crypto. There's nothing that can stop that. Well, for a permissionless network, so no problem. I just think the show of it is funny, right? The spectacle of I mean, the things that jump out at me are uh, one, that they're trying to be like, "Hello, fellow kids," like we're
Mm-hmm.
not we're real, and it's like, nah, no, you're not. And then 5% of Bitcoin ETF profits. So I don't know what the profits are like for something like this, but they must be. Let's
Got to be
assume they're
like
very
huge.
large, right? Like absolutely huge. 5% of that, core devs don't need that much to do shit, right? It's a full node. They're not involved in all the infrastructure that needs to be made. Uh, Even assuming that they're well intentioned and a good organization, which they're not. But yeah, even if you assume the best, they don't need that much money. That money needs to be distributed across all the people that are making infrastructure, that are running businesses, that are uh, just a real ecosystem, right? This is just like a massive attempt at centralizing and how do you say, legitimizing, right? It legitimizes the entrenched, controlled opposition is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's a natural sort of consequence of this. And this is one thing I have been like I've you know lived all on Bitcoin before. Obviously, like a lot of B cashers and pre cashers, as I call us, right? Um, Obviously, it's been a while since that's been something I've advocated for. But in the recent like month or two, I've become a lot more aggressive, partially to boost my Twitter numbers because I got monetized on Twitter, and I want to
Yeah,
post like when I make a big post, I actually make money off of maxi tiers. So thank you. But
yeah.
the
It's shooting fish in a barrel at this point with BTC stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I'm despite all that, I know a lot of people, like perhaps Jeremy, who's watching the podcast right now. Hi, Jeremy, or at least part of it. Um, I know a lot of people might be bearish on Bitcoin, BTC surviving and thriving in the short to medium term, and I'm
I don't
not.
know. I don't know if they are really. I
Some
think
people
like
are.
it's a it's now its own spectacle, and it could survive for
Yeah,
a very long time as a spectacle, but it's nothing real anymore.
it's like people predicting the fall of the American empire, the U.S. empire.
Right.
Yeah, I
Like you're
mean,
like, yeah, you're not wrong,
yeah, I
but it's
mean,
gonna take a
yeah,
while.
but it's not like, I mean, like when did the British Empire fall? I mean, it's
Never.
debatable when that happened. The
Yeah.
UK is still one of the power brokers of the world.
Hmm.
Even though it's clearly not the number one or even number two or three or whatever, but it's still up there. In so, I think at this point, this is, I guess, this is massively bullish for Bitcoin's entrenched future in the global economy for at least 10 years. It's going to be part of it, and but it doesn't matter to someone like me. But
Well,
the thing is, the
it'll be
play, yeah,
entrenched in assets, right? In
yes, that's what I'm
assets,
saying.
not in the actual economy, right? In the financialized economy, yes. In the actual economy, no.
Yeah, it's so many companies, and also layer two, or other blockchain projects and stuff are going to be scrambling to find a way to do what Bitcoin doesn't do anymore, but for Bitcoin, at least for the denominated asset. It's just going to be around for a while. Now, is it going to perform super well price wise compared to the rest of the things? I kind of view it like a Microsoft at this point, where Microsoft got a massive first mover advantage, and they just had this like this glorious decade of having their products absolutely suck but still stay on top. And they're still there, but like, nah, they're not top dog anymore now. So I think that's probably a realistic trajectory for Bitcoin, right? Just it's there, it's gonna be there for a while, but you know, anyway,
It
I don't
just
know what you
depends
think.
on what you want, right? Like, what are you looking for and what are your goals? If you don't know that, then you can accomplish anything, right? Because you don't know what you're aiming for. But
Yeah.
I think you and I probably both agree on the gilded cage metaphor for BTC. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
the price does is fine, and that's impressive and interesting. But if what you're actually aiming for is some kind of tool to help you be more free, to actually avoid a surveillance state, to avoid an authoritarian state, to avoid all kinds of nasty things, CBDC, if that's the kind of stuff you're looking to counter or avoid or get out of the way of, that kind of thing, BTC will do absolutely nothing for you. Zero. It
Yeah.
won't help you there at all.
Well, that's why I cranked out a really quick post on that a couple hours ago, just because I knew I had to do something. Also, I knew I'd be talking about it on the show, so it helped that too. Basically, just saying Bitcoin is becoming owned and controlled by institutions. Talking about how the VanEck thing basically is like when Blockstream sponsored a whole lot of core developers, and then the Bitcoin roadmap turned into like a layer 2 scaling thing rather than a layer 1 scaling thing, and then the rest is history. No need to rehash all the block size war stuff, but basically, Eddie, there's this one point which I think is very interesting here, is and and I'd like to kind of explore like the different angles of this because it could mean a few different things. But I said any crypto that doesn't fund its own development is at risk of similar capture. And so the thinking of that, obviously, from Bitcoin BTC in the early days, the core team, it wasn't. I wasn't really around much as far like I was just starting to use Bitcoin. I didn't really know about who the core developers were, who funded them. But from what people have told me who were around in the day, there was like the Bitcoin Foundation. There's some other stuff going on, but like there's always like a struggle to find the right way, the right mix of funding for the core team. And so then when it became easy, it just had a great entry point for Blockstream. Just throw a little bit of money around and take the whole thing over. And
A vacuum. Nature hates a
yes,
vacuum. Yeah.
and with now I think Blockstream has stepped off almost entirely. Like there might be one or two devs still funded by Blockstream, but as far as I know, it's like minimal. They already got what they wanted, kind of. But now with VanEck, like the amount of money that VanEck is putting in versus the amount of money that was already in funding development, it's just colossal. It's like absolutely not even like 99 to 1%. It's just like, it's even bigger than that. And so there's a lot of cryptos that have self-funding mechanisms, but even the ones who don't have something explicit, like in the code base, I think it's every project needs some kind of a system going for funding development where you don't have this thing, happening. And so one thing that I've been meaning to do like a deeper dive into is like, for example, the Bitcoin Cash teams, how those dev teams are funded, and already just having a flip starter, which is a system kind of, is already way better than anything else. Where it has like the, what is it? The doesn't have the sunk. Trying to think about the sunk cost fallacy or whatever it is that it removes by being able to just get funded when everyone donates and you don't have to
It's an
fund
assurance
it.
contract.
Yeah. So, do you honestly see this kind of a thing being like a threat in the future for something like, for example, Bitcoin Cash, where I mean there's a mechanism for the donations, but as far as like, let's just say a company like, I don't know, say Coinbase decides to be like, you know what, we're going to be funding like 50% of each of these dev teams things, and then like start influencing the teams in a direction away from competing with Base, their L2 for Ethereum, for example. Like, do you see that as a threat, or what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a threat for anything. I mean, there's no such thing when you get into the world of money, right? It's like Game of Thrones kind of world. There's going to be pain involved, right? And subterfuge and competition and winning and losing. It's not a it's not a kumbaya uh, place to live, and that's just a natural thing. So yeah, absolutely, everything is under threat all the time, because there's a lot of wealth and power involved in the whole picture. So yeah, absolutely. And I think actually, if I step back a little bit, what we realized that in the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem, if I speak for the whole thing, which I don't, but if I try to, we've been in a lot of fights, and a lot of those we didn't choose ourselves, right? But anyway, we've been in them, and part of that is because we have a very clear vision of where we're going, which is very close to the original Bitcoin ideas, right? Like global money for the world. It's not that complicated, right? Which means everybody, as many people as possible, as much commerce as possible, all direct with no intermediaries and all that stuff. So we have that vision, and yeah, that's when you have a pretty clear vision, you end up needing to cut off certain avenues. And what we've learned overall is that it's not just about the money. Money is part of it. It's that the social layer is is there, and it's very, very real. You know, people who imagine like, oh, it's just technology. I'm interested in the technology. That's all I care about, is nonsense. That doesn't exist, right? Especially when you get into something like money networks, they're extremely social structures, and so there's the technology, there's the social layer as well, and that's something Bitcoin Cash has realized is very real and very important. And part of that is funding. Part of that is that real people have real needs and incentives that they follow. And yes, so funding is part of that. Flipstarter helps to fill that need with, as you said, assurance contracts. And it's an open source system. It's not a platform of something that can be owned. It's just a technology that anyone can deploy anytime to get permissionless funding for whatever kind of project they want to do. So yeah, there's the funding aspect, but then there's more than that. There's the social part, which is as we have the chip process, the cash improvement process, and that's another aspect which we could also talk about. But yeah, I'd say that the whole social layer is extremely important, and people in crypto who have never been in a hard fight probably don't realize how nasty it can get. But yeah, it's very real, and money is part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that I think we kind of touched on the Cyber Hornets thing, which obviously say like that guy makes you cringe so hard, but obviously the illusion in this thing for Cyber Hornets or things like that is you have to have a strong community. And one thing I think we forget is these are these are machines that take that a system, right? Like a decentralized blockchain, for example, is a system that you put inputs into and it produces the best outcomes. But you need inputs. You need some inputs, first of all, but you also hopefully need good ones too. And so the like for example, if you could have a structurally decentralized network, like a Bitcoin, any Bitcoin fork or whatever, and then just like Bitcoin SV structurally is probably very similar to Bitcoin Cash as far as like the technical difficult. You don't think so
No,
anymore?
it's extremely different. No,
They changed a lot
yeah,
of
no.
shit. Yeah.
They it's
Well,
they went off on a religious tangent, and I mean that, and not in a positive religious way, but in the
yeah.
worst religious way of like following fake Toshi and whatever techno
Yeah,
babble he
well,
threw
I
out
guess
there.
that's my point is when the actual fork happened, comparing the code bases was probably extremely similar, but then the practicality of what happened afterwards turned out to be very different. Where, first of all, the world started centralizing around one person and then that person's company and chain and all that kind of stuff. And then over time, that starts to bleed into protocol changes as far as repossessing
No,
coins and things like that.
it was all in chain and in gig from the very beginning. It was all them. The BSV stuff was.
Yeah. So that's something that how to get Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I can give an example about the social layer issues. So if you look at BTC world today, I don't keep up so much because, like I said, it's mostly entertainment for me. But
Of course.
it's a bit sad, right? Because I see a lot of well-intentioned people in the space, and they have the right idea, they have the right words, they have the right marketing, and they have the right like talking points, but they don't realize that what they're working with can't achieve any of the stuff that they're talking about. And the reason they don't understand it is not because of the technology. So there's Segwit as a soft fork, which is horseshit, trash tier engineering that went into BTC. But whatever, people love it. But forget about that. Imagine it was even great. Um, and there was Taproot and that kind of stuff. But it's not about the technology. That's not the reason why it's not going to work for them. And they don't understand it because they still don't see the social layer as being what it is. And so you look at the CTV guys, PolyD and Moonsettler and others, and then the ordinals and the inscription guys and all that stuff. And they're just fighting amongst themselves in this red versus blue kind of battle, where they're like, "You guys suck. No, we're better. You guys suck." And but none of them are actually talking to the people who matter, right? The ones who actually make the decisions for BTC, there's like two, three, four people on the face, and there's maybe fewer than that behind them. I don't know, but that's it. And then they can't quite accept it, that it's really just like a handful of humans that they need to talk to convince, who are really actually in control of what happens with BTC. And then
Yeah.
they just can't accept that. And so until
That
they can accept that, they're going to focus on all these other wrong things, and that's where the circus emerges. Is all this kind of detachment from reality of how decisions are made in BTC.
Yeah, it's actually become a little bit more transparent in some cases than that, where I have heard the line in the Maxia violence kind of arguments
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the 10 podcasters. And it's not a 10 specific podcasters, but basically just saying like it's not real Bitcoin unless there's no consensus unless the 10 podcasters talk about it. They've been mockingly saying that, right? Is in
yeah. Oh,
but
but
you know
even that is cope, right? They're like
yeah,
10, and
it
it's
is
like
cope.
no, it's like three. It's like three or
Yeah.
four, and it's not the podcasters, right? The podcasters are a reflection. The podcasters and influencers have correctly identified who makes the decisions and who makes the calls, and they've aligned with them. But that doesn't mean that they're the ones making the calls.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting to tell because you do see certain narratives start somewhere and then
Oh
go,
yeah,
and then you see a change in narratives. And I guess I was one of the earlier, maybe not the earliest person to notice this, but like people forgot, like Blockstream's Liquid was a complete joke. It didn't exist. And it's a great segue, by the way, but it was a
still
joke.
is.
And then all of a sudden, I saw like one or two people mention it. Well, there's always that. And if Lightning's not working with these high fees, what if we tried this? And then all of a sudden, the influencer, because there's so many influencer accounts out there that are all trying to get those sweet, sweet Elon bucks for, posting Mid-Journey generations every day or whatever. Uh, all of a sudden, just like the flip, like the script, the NPC thing kind of hit. And then I saw one person in particular who's I guess a retired OnlyFans creator who ended up becoming a pro red pill, influencer kind of, there's all that kind of like the carnivore thing and all that
Right.
stuff.
Okay.
But, a complete just like, I would lovingly say grifter, right? Just like just a person that just jumped onto the next thing. And then I just saw her randomly respond, Blockstream's Liquid is such a good something to shill liquid. I'm just like, about wait a second. I'm
Yeah,
seeing how
yeah.
this
Where did
works.
you
I
get
see
that?
it.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah,
You don't know what liquid is. Someone told you this.
yeah. Yes, yes. Well, the same was the true back in the day when Peter McCormick appeared. He was nobody. He was down on his luck. He was falling apart at the seams, and he was a mess, an absolute mess. But he decided to get into whatever it was. And I remember him. Like I remember him shopping around. So he would come around like RBTC, back in the day, you know, around the time of the split. And he's like, tell me about this Bitcoin Cash thing. And he's like, try to figure it out. And he's like, but then eventually he keyed on to like, oh, okay. All the money is in BTC. And he just poof, he just disappeared out of everywhere else. And, you know, he went all in on what Bitcoin did and all that stuff. Yeah. They're not the leaders. They're the talkers, and they align with whatever the direction is, whether that's through money or just through recognizing where the wind is blowing.
Yeah, for sure. There's a Jeremy did comment something on the YouTube thing. He says it is 10 specific podcasters. One guy made a post saying he wouldn't agree to change BTC unless these 10 people agree, and he listed them. I'd like to compare. I've heard variants of that. I'd like to actually compare and see how many people have listed those 10 podcasters and said they won't. Because from my recollection, again, I scroll through lots of info. I don't pay a lot of close attention to anything in particular until it shows up on the show. But I could have sworn most of the people talking about 10 podcasters were talking it derisively. They weren't saying, these are the 10 podcasters that I personally actually listen to. Which, if that's true,
no, it's circus. It's bullshit. Yeah. So if you Jeremy from the Bitcoin Cash podcast very correctly identified and predicted what would happen with Paul Stortz and Peter Todd. So Paul,
there isn't enough consensus thing.
Well, Paul has more correctly identified than others that there is a ring that needs to be kissed. He gets it to some degree, right? He's kind of accepted that. I don't know if he really gets it, but he seems to have understood it at some level. And he went to kiss the ring, right? So he had this debate with Peter Todd, and Peter Todd just thrashed him, just spanked him in public, right? Mm-hmm. Just made a mess out of both his arguments. So like fucked around with Paul's arguments and made nonsense out of them. But then also he just demonstrated like, no, it's not happening. Look, I told you it's not happening. It's silly. And that's where the real power is, right? Is those people who can make decisions, and then the ones who have the relationships with miners, which is hilarious because on the surface, right, the BTC ecosystem, they denigrate miners, right? They talk shit about miners all the time. They're like, oh, they're like the security guards or something. They really try to
about
put
the hash
them
rate
down.
going up.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's just magic. It's the God-given right. Yeah. So, but the ones who have the relationships with the miners and the pools are the ones who actually establish, right, that even if some people like Knots or some people like some other node, no, Core is the one that's doing the work. And they know that that's actually how the BTC consensus is established and held, right, is who's running what node and what rules. So yeah, there's two faces to that whole thing. There's the public spectacle, which is entertaining and funny, and then there's this very dirty top end of BTC that kind of stays out of the picture and stays out of the red versus blue fray. Anyway, I'm about done with BTC. I don't like talking about it that much. It's just entertainment, but then too much of it, and it's like, ugh.
The entertainment is great.
So yeah, the price might go to the moon, but it's never going to achieve anything at all that I'm interested in, right? There's lots of stocks, and there's plenty of currency, FX you can do. There's stock exchanges. There's all kinds of derivatives. There's all kinds of things you can do in the world to try to make money, which is fine. But that's all they're going to do for you, right? It's not actually going to accomplish anything. So I like to focus on the things that are actually going to do something.
BTC is the new S&P 500. It's just like
no, it's much worse than S&P because S&P companies do something. They do something, right? They do something useful.
I'm saying for like the mental thing, it's the thing that the S&P 500, like investing in that doesn't really.
It's an asset.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and it's also transitioning probably to becoming the boring one, right? That like institutions throw their stuff into, and it's like, it's just like it's not a world shaker anymore. But
no, it's just it's a beanie baby at this point. It's a collector's item, and it might last for a very long time, but it doesn't actually do anything anymore.
Well, before we hit on the Liquid wallet thing, which I thought was hilarious too, just for like real quick, because this could be forever. What do you think about the whole ordinals thing? Because it seems like ordinals came in from anti-maxi people kind of explicitly to throw a monkey wrench in the maxi world and force a question. And it's clearly upset a lot of the laser eyes, but also because of the money it generated, it seems to have staying power. But like, just what's your real quick hot take on that?
I just think it's another part of the circus. I think it's hilarious. I think a lot of BTC people haven't accepted yet. So, how do I say it? You know, in any red versus blue
Yes.
fight, there's going to be caricaturization going on, where each side has some valid point and some silly point. You know, like some extremism to it, and then some valid stuff to it. And the part that gets looked at and that gets elevated on each side is the extremism, the caricature part of it. And on the ordinal side, the funny thing is, it really is the BSV guys came in and they're like, oh, let's do this. You know, I mean, BTC is now a data carrier like we always wanted. And they're like, let's do this. Let's build up all this infrastructure and wallets and make it easy to use, because they're not bad at that. So they came up with the wallets and all this other stuff, and they're building it up, and then yeah, it hyped up for whatever reason, and it's BTC, so there's a huge number of people looking at it. So yeah, but the BSV element of that, I think, is absolutely hilarious. And then on the other side, you know, they're like, no, Bitcoin is a financial network, it's for money. And you know, BCH and all the pre-cashers or whatever it is that you say, everybody's like, oh really? Tell me more about about money. Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
So, but on that side, right? They think inscriptions are evil, and you know, they want to go back to the pure and good Bitcoin, whatever, the golden age. I don't know what it's in their minds, but they just can't accept that inscriptions are possible and incentivized heavily because of the shit tier engineering that went into the BTC stuff, that went into the BTC upgrades, because that's like a religious point for them, right? That BTC is so pure and it doesn't get upgrades, it doesn't change, it's immaculate conception. Yeah, but it's changed so much, and it's had some really bad changes happen to it, right? Like this big bug that went into it. Like Luke Jr., the other day, he came on one of my threads, like out of nowhere, and he's like, you liar! Because I called him out as like, you were responsible for inscriptions, basically. You know, you didn't catch the bug that Greg and Peter and whoever else put into it. You didn't catch it. Why didn't you catch that? And he's just like, So yeah, there's just so much silliness on both sides of it, and neither one of them are really getting to the point. So,
well, let's hit on this other point of silliness, because it is pretty funny. So speaking of like the way things have shifted as far as like the narratives, I have noticed part of those 10 podcasters or whatever have been shilling this new wallet called Aqua. And then,
okay. Oh God,
it especially BTC Sessions has been saying, oh yeah, this is best. It's the most easy user like recommend. My grandma can use it. I think they even use that. Anyway, this fellow right here says, I'm a little puzzled. Am I the only one that finds Aqua Bitcoin very confusing, a little misleading, and definitely something my grandmother would never know how to use? And then it says, when I receive a payment from a Lightning wallet, Aqua swaps it on the Liquid network, and I receive LBTC. Am I right, or am I missing something? And then you're right. That's how it works. Every Lightning Network payment is a Lightning Network to LBTC swap via bolts. And then, to his credit,
it's like, wait a minute, what does that mean exactly?
Seth for Privacy said, wait, what? Aqua Bitcoin is just Moon, but using Liquid? That's not a Lightning wallet, and only continues to work if Liquid fees stay low long term. Doesn't seem clearly communicated to all users. Why the need to fake Lightning for users? So let me just let you have a stab at that last sentence. Why the need?
Oh, that's extreme. I mean, that's like, wow. Yeah. How much easier can you make it? Thanks for the setup. No, I mean, the reason is Lightning could never work as a general scaling solution. That's what we have been saying. It was used as a. I posted a tweet recently that it was elevated, artificially elevated to a position of this is a scaling solution because everybody could see that fees were going to go through the roof. So this isn't, and I'm talking like 2016, 17, right? Not
Yeah.
recently. It's been going for a long time. So the reason people fake Lightning is because it doesn't work. And if people think it works, it's because they're doing it in a very, very limited box, like with them and four of their friends. Like I know a guy, I won't say where, but I know a guy who pushes it all the time. And it's like, no, 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 you're using it with like five people that you know. Of course it works there because you're only connected to each other. You're all connected to one hub and you're just going through like back and forth between the hub with each other. But it doesn't actually work as a global scaling solution. So the reason they're faking it is because it doesn't work, and a business wouldn't be dumb enough to build their business on Lightning Network because it's unreliable, it's dangerous. They'll end up getting rugged. It's expensive to make channels and close channels for users. There's a huge risk for them, counterparty risk, because if not exactly counterparty, but if their users are setting up channels and then their users get rugged by a forced closure or something like that, then they're on the hook for it, or the customer will think they're on the hook for it, etc. It's easy. The reason is it doesn't work. That's why they fake it.
Yeah, and it's a very clever kind of thing to use like a submarine swap to basically on chain to whoever, and then they send the Lightning payment out on your thing. The thing is, I think, like what's going on here, there's nothing. Well, I don't say there's nothing, but it's not necessarily what's going on that's wrong. It's the deception about it that's wrong. Whereas the Moon Wallet was, if you remember Jack Mallers and his and that whole thing, non-custodial Moon Wallet, because it doesn't use Lightning at all. It just is an on-chain wallet, and as soon as fees got to like $4 or something, which is not that high for Bitcoin these days, but as soon as it got up to that, then all of a sudden people are like, why am I paying $4 to use Lightning? And it's like, oh, it was a LARP. It was a fake. It could have just been an on-chain wallet with RBF disabled or whatever to be like instant in, whatever. But they had to just add Lightning at the end so you could pretend like you're using Lightning. Now this is the same thing, but it goes into the Liquid network, which, let's be honest, I have not used, and I will use it at some point just to say I tried it. But
Liquid network is literally owned by Blockstream. It's like, what?
Yes.
They control the keys.
LBTC is definitely, it's not, so Lightning, at least it's like you got a two-way multi-sig, right? With two people, and then you're connected to more people, and you just kind of update the balances across there. At least there's some kind of like a semblance of there's real Bitcoin involved because you can force close and whatever. Liquid is not that at all. It's with the IOU stuff, which may have been exaggeration talking about Lightning, is definitely not an exaggeration talking about Liquid, because and I did read some of the Blockstream documentation. You can run your own Liquid node and bridge Bitcoin in. Anyone can do that, but you cannot bridge Bitcoin out unless without express permission of one of the Federation signatories, which are, it's not public necessarily who they are, and it's not permissionless. They need the existing signatories to let a new one in or whatever. So I call it's like the Hotel California. You can put your Bitcoin in, but you can never leave. So that's what we're dealing with is, let's just say, I'm Mr. Cypherpunk Bitcoiner. I run my own little Lightning node at home, and I'm like, let me pay your Aqua Wallet. And then it goes zap in, and then they get not real Bitcoin, paper Bitcoin, that they can't convert to real Lightning or on-chain, whatever you want to call it. They can't do that. And if it were paper and IOU on some kind of nominally permissionless network, that would be one thing. It would be like, okay, like with Thorchain or Maya or whatever, like, okay, that's nominally permissionless and it's an IOU to some degree, but that's different. But the Liquid stuff is literally owned by Blockstream. It's not like, it doesn't come anywhere close to, as you said, qualifying as real Bitcoin in any way. Yeah, and let me actually,
regardless of the technicals of it.
I'm going to put up on the screen here from the Aqua Wallet something that the screenshot of the app. It just some like, it launched today on Bitcoin Genesis Day. It's only like a 2-day old wallet. So, but it's already got, so if you look at their UX here, right, it says Aqua, Bitcoin price, whatever. And the Bitcoin price on the screenshot is like $89,000 or something like that, which is, it's never been that high. It's clearly just trying to like get in people's minds that, oh, it's going to go up. But anyway, right. They have a savings account and a spending account, right? Savings account is L1 on-chain Bitcoin. And then the spending account, it has a droplet icon and with a lightning bolt in it. And it says layer 2 Bitcoin. And it says Lightning and Liquid. How the, like, no offense, but like, we already covered why, by the way. But how the hell can you have Lightning and Liquid in the same balance? It's not the same thing at all. They're radically different networks and things. You can't combine a balance of two, but that's because it's all Liquid. But just Liquid, you can bridge out to Lightning if you need to, but it's all Liquid. And they're kind of like, oh, it's just layer 2 Bitcoin. It's not like, here's the Blockstream long game is really coming in right now. This is crazy.
It's silliness. There's my favorite phrase is the old, very, very old phrase, ex falso quod libet, which is, from falsehood follows, the full form is like, from falsehood follows anything, right? Or an explosion of things. And all this stuff that's going on is the explosion part of the nonsense that was established back in 2015, 16, 17. This whole idea that Bitcoin can't scale, and that this pretty well designed. Satoshi wasn't infallible and made a bunch of mistakes. Wasn't perfect. But
it's also Australian.
The general design that he came up with.
Just kidding. I'm trolling. Purely trolling.
The general design that he came up with was very good, and it scales very, very well. The whole idea that L1 can't scale alone is just like from that falsehood that was established. There's just such an explosion of nonsense. Lightning, Liquid, Fediment. What else is there? Anyway, all the nonsense that's going on with BTC, right? It's just like, okay, whatever. Like, just. It's very frustrating.
And I have to say, not just BTC, because there have been, so the top used by just about every reliable metric I can find. You can't really be sure about this stuff, but the top used digital cash coin today seems to be Litecoin, because it's got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of transactions a day these days. Like, what is it? BitPay has Litecoin as the #1 payment option over Bitcoin these days. Bitrefill shows a pretty good chunk. There's a lot of things that seem to point in that direction because, again, it works very similar to Bitcoin, except the confirmation times are faster and the fees are still below 1 cent. And
for now.
Yes, for now. Well, that's the thing. Well, Litecoin bought into the Bitcoin scaling roadmap as far as, well, we have 4 times the capacity because of the faster blocks, but we're going to do SegWit. We have a Lightning network too, all this other stuff. And Decred is sort of the same thing. I don't remember what Decred's on-chain capacity is right now, but their whole thing was like, we're basically like a DAO governance version of Bitcoin, but we're still going to L2 scaling and stuff. Then you have even Monero's a little bit fishier because, as far as I know, because of the adaptive block size and stuff like that, Monero is just a big block coin. However, a lot, like Fluffy Pony and some other people in the past, have talked about L2. Oh, you will need that to scale eventually. And the worst one, of course, is Ethereum, because Ethereum, and this has been something it's almost more sinister because it was quieter. The L2 scaling roadmap of Ethereum I've seen over time, like everyone talked about, execution sharding is going to happen. It's going to help scale Ethereum on chain, all this kind of stuff. And that's left the roadmap. And as far as I know, there's never been any discussion of it or why. Pretty much just Justin Bonds, who's, a great, great dude, and he's very hard-headed, noticed this. And just entirely the whole like, well, you can't scale. Like everyone just accepts this falsehood of you can't scale on chain. And I understand if someone came up with this idea after they saw Ethereum start hitting some bottlenecks. But this was far before Ethereum even existed, as far as I remember, that this started to come out. And then they just like, okay. And so Ethereum is just L2 scaling, like all these other independent, basically corporate owned blockchains are what people actually use instead. And as far as like the vast majority of the space, as far as capital and users, is under this falsehood right now, is under this regime. And it's pretty mind blowing, if I'm honest. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we saw it happen very firsthand, starting around 2014, right? I mean, it just slapped you in the face, and we didn't understand, like I said, how important the social layer was at that time, right? The way I like to say it is, those of us who want to see literally, permissionless money standing toe to toe with the fiat standard of the world, um, talking about, oh, it can't scale. It's like, hold up. Like that's a no-go right there. We have to find a way to scale things, right? If it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, then you failed. Because you won't be able to reach the world. You won't be able to run an economy. You won't be able to do meaningful commerce or finance. So, yeah, no, it has to be able to. Um, the whole L2 scaling thing was established back then. And that's why probably you and I have a similar view about the gilded cage of
Mm-hmm.
BTC, and others as well. Like you're saying, it's not only isolated to BTC, but just this whole idea. And that's the castration of Bitcoin. It's been defanged, right? As soon as it becomes an asset, it fits right into the traditional legacy finance. It's not a threat. It's not going to cause any problems. It's not going to make any waves. It might make little waves. It might make a few people rich and a few people lose some money, but nothing's actually going to change with it. And so that started happening way back, like 2014 and on. That's beginning of that very pernicious narrative that you can't scale. It's an asset. It's gold. That's such a pernicious thing that has just permeated a lot of crypto, and it's very sad to see. But yeah, there's a lot of people who see through it, and I think we're gonna make it eventually anyway. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that is both brutal but also is the saving grace in the end is the free market, because the free market is undefeated and decides all. And one thing's for sure is the user does not care. The end user of these things does not care about scaling roadmaps or on chain. They don't, just does it work or not? Does it do what I want? And the dark side of that is that's like the wallet of Satoshi kind of thing, which is they'll just download a fully custodial fake app as long as it just lets them do what they want. But the thing is, it's not just like a righteousness fight. The reason why we don't build on shaky foundations of sand, of centralization, custodial things, is because eventually you can't do what you want with those. Like in the US,
Yeah.
and this finally came out today to the end user. Of course, not everyone saw Wallet of Satoshi's announcement. They said that they're no longer servicing US customers because of stuff. I saw it. A lot of people who are always on Twitter saw it, but most of their users didn't see it. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing all these screenshots pop up saying, "Hey, it says not available in your country. What the hell?" It's like, there you go. And eventually, they're going to use, again, another shout out to someone who does not sponsor the podcast, Selene Wallet, right? They're going to download something like Selene Wallet that just works, and it just
That just worked.
and they're going to be like, why is this Bitcoin worth not the same as the other Bitcoin? Okay, we get past that, then it works. Once you get past that little thing, then it's just like, I can send, I can receive, it works. It came in here, it did that, and at the end of the day, like, who's going to be messing around with like these weird liquid wallet thingies if it just the user experience is not the same? Like, it's a temporary problem because everyone wants Bitcoin. Everyone says, "Oh,
Well,
Bitcoin," but it's a
I'll,
temporary
I'll tell you
problem.
the answer. I'll tell you the answer to that though. The answer is, um, there are very, very entrenched interests of all kinds that don't want something to rock the boat, don't want anyone to really rock the boat of the system, how the system works. And I don't mean like some kind of miniature cabal of horned goatee people. I just mean there's a huge number of entrenched interests that want things to be the way they are. And yeah, something that can actually change the game is scary and not really a good thing, and subject to permission. It needs to be wrapped up and controlled, whatever it is. And that's what's happened with these things. And the reason people are going to use it is because that wrapping up and control process involves making things illegal and regulated so that it's not possible. And so the walls are going up. The walls are going up higher and higher and faster between legacy finance and anything that's actual crypto, like native crypto, right? Those walls are going up, and those walls are KYC, AML, FATF, all of those kind of things is what's going to happen. And as soon as it becomes even, like vaguely, maybe it's illegal, huge number of people will fall off, right? Because even if it's a pain in the ass to have your bank account and have your shit get checked every time you try to make a transfer and you try to withdraw cash and they're like, why do you need that? And you're like, why the fuck do you need to know why I need that? And so forth. Like people will deal with that as soon as they're told, hey, you might get in trouble. They will comply. Most people will comply. And that's the reason people will deal with bad user experience. And that's why it's really important to get as many people as possible on the native crypto, like actually using it, doing commerce, doing business, doing finance with crypto directly. Because if you can't, the adoption of or the evolution of financial system from the fiat standard to something better could be delayed by years, decades, centuries, who knows how long. So, there's real consequences to screwing this up and not doing it well.
Well, one thing's for sure, people use cash because it makes sense. And people will use digital cash, even an illegal digital cash. Just like, people were threatened with prison and stuff for file sharing. But for something so small as, I want to watch this movie without buying the whole thing. And yet people did it. People continue to. And they will for this.
In large numbers.
Yes,
large numbers, right? That requires very large numbers of people to happen. Because as soon as there's enough people involved, it becomes politically infeasible to arrest everybody or to imprison or to fine everyone. It becomes politically infeasible, the social layer, not technically. They could, charge everyone if they wanted to. But with money, it's different, right? For whatever reasons, it's not been as viral as things like file sharing. So
why?
It's there's still room to improve.
In a lot of the developed world, you still have cash. And even when you don't, you can Venmo someone or use some payment apps, and you can do 99.99% of what you want to do with that. There's like,
and you're also forced into it. You're forced to climb the wall. You're forced into setting up bank accounts. And everybody's like, oh, well, it's all done already. I already have it. It's so easy. And it's like, hold up. Cut all those things out. Cut out the bank. Cut out the credit cards. Cut out all those custodial services that you're using. And then see how easy your life is. It's a huge pain in the ass. And then try to get back into the system. And they're like, oh, no, you can't have an account. You can't have a credit card. Yeah, rich people are served well by legacy finance. Yes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guess what time it is? It's
relatively rich people.
It's shill-o'clock. So let's talk about BCH Bull. Let me throw that on the screen real quick. So bchbull.com and Be the Bull, New Frontier in Decentralized Finance. We already did a whole podcast about this, but might as well hit your little elevator pitch.
Yeah, sure. So like I was saying, come and use crypto, be on the leading edge of actually making a difference and making money. So with Bitcoin Cash and BCH Bull, you can get on there. You can basically save money. If you want to save in terms of gold or US dollars or euro, whatever it is that you think is stable, if that's what you're looking for, you can get on BCH Bull and get stability in crypto without having to step out into legacy finance. If your thing is speculation, longing and shorting, it's really the same thing, and you can do that on there also. So you can do it non-custodially, on-chain, L1, fast, everything just works. There's no account. You don't have to give it your email. You don't have to tell it who you are. There's none of that stuff. You just get on there and use it.
Nice. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of people kind of hedging to get there, to stabilize their finances on that kind of stuff. And cool little graphic on the pinned on the site with the end. Was that a runway animation or was that something else? Just
which one? I can't see it.
The bull on the pinned tweet on the Twitter account.
This is all AI stuff. It's all AI generated. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I thought. I've been, you know, I'm something of an AI generator myself. So
I know, yeah,
yeah, the
yeah,
fun
and
stuff.
with the BCH Bull stuff, when we were talking about funding projects before, right? Like getting funded with
Mm-hmm.
Flipstarter or whatever it is that you're doing. But one of the things about having a project and making commitments with the project, or like a business, you receive investment and then you make commitments to achieve certain things or to grow the business and whatnot. And when you make those commitments, but your underlying capital, if your underlying capital, like our company, General Protocols, is literally crypto, we operate entirely on crypto. When that's the case, and that volatility can really be scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
The purchasing power can be very volatile, and so BCH Bull and lets you stay in crypto without having to go out to legacy finance and get whatever kind of stability you want. So that's very valuable. So when Joel, when you say hedging for your users, that basically means savings. You can go on there and be
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm going to fix the USD value of it. And this is different from going into custodial stable coins, which could get rugged at any moment or get permissioned or whatever else can happen with them.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where stable coins are a giant, important adoption tool right now, but people really don't see the risks of them.
You're
And
really playing with fire
well,
with stable coins. Yeah.
yeah, with Luna especially, we all saw that, and then all like obviously USDC and then BUSD with the whole like that thing getting shut down, and then seems like if you better save in Tether. God. Anyway, I don't want to go in there because Tether's its own kind of thing. All right, so people could follow you on. Obviously, there's the BCH underscore bull account, but then also I can't remember off the top of my head. Your can emergent underscore reasons or just
No,
emergent
no, just
reasons.
emergent reasons. One word
Nice.
on
So you
Twitter.
got the whole
I
thing.
think it didn't fit or something. I
So
don't
what
remember.
are the emergent reasons for using that that name?
Oh, so I don't know. That's just always been my favorite word since forever ago. Just the word emergent, because
Yeah.
I I I don't know. Whenever you ask why about something, there's always an answer, and then you can always ask why again, and it's kind of a fractal, recursive thing. You can always ask why and understand more. And at the roots of anything that you see, there's an infinite amount of history behind it, or a huge amount of history behind it,
Hmm.
and it's very hard to really think you understand something. There's always something deeper to understand.
Yeah, I think it's a great catchphrase to just like slip into conversation, see if people are paying attention. They're like, I think I'm gonna have to go to bed soon for emergent reasons, or just see if anyone gets on with that.
No, it's just my personal like pet word, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, everyone follow him on X and other stuff. Use BCH Bull. Thanks for watching. Go check out CoinATMRadar if you want to buy from ATM in a place that's not Japan, apparently. And
Yeah,
like,
we should. Yeah, I'd like to
subscribe.
hear from them sometime.
Yeah, like, subscribe, and all the other fun stuff. And then you're going on the BCH podcast in like 15 minutes
Yeah,
or less, right?
yeah, I'm gonna be over there in a minute. Yeah,
Yes. So on X, which is the best place to be right now, but go to the BCH podcast, and that's Jeremy's handle, and just follow him. And just if you like what John's been chatting about, there's gonna be more fun stuff, but probably less maxi bashing on that show for now because
yes,
that's
yes.
only so much a man
I'm
can
gonna
do in a day.
I'm gonna take a shower before I go over there and have
Yes.
a talk about what we're doing. Yeah,
All right.
it's
Fantastic.
good to
Well, we'll
talk with
keep
you,
you
Joel. Thanks
from
for
the
your time,
shower.
man.
Yep. Thanks for being on, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy weekend. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys next week.
See you.